Hey everyone, and welcome. Ever stop and think about how massive companies, with thousands of employees, actually keep everyone on the same page and playing by the rules? Well, today, we're pulling back the curtain on that very thing. We're going to dive into how these huge organizations manage risk with a super clear chain of accountability, all the way from the ground floor to the very top. It really all boils down to these two questions, doesn't it? Who's making sure the rules are actually being followed? And maybe even more important, who's checking the checkers? Look, it's one thing to have rules written down somewhere, but it's a whole different ballgame to make sure they're being followed, verified, and that the right people know about it. So let's find out how it really works. So first things first, let's get on the same page about the word risk. When we talk about risk in this context, we're really just talking about anything, literally anything, that could pop up and get in the way of a company hitting its goals. So managing all this isn't just about, avoiding some huge disaster. It's really about making sure the whole operation stays stable and successful.
Okay, to really get this, we're going to trace the chain of accountability from the bottom up. We're going to look at 3 different groups and see exactly how information about risks and controls flows upwards. You'll see that each level has a totally unique and absolutely crucial role to play.
All right. Our journey starts with the people who are closest to the action, the business process owners. I want you to think of them like the builders on a massive construction project. They're the experts in their specific area, and they're the ones responsible for building things correctly right from the start. This quote just nails their role perfectly. They're the ones on the hook for putting safeguards in place, and these safeguards are called controls. A control could be something simple, like needing a second signature for a big payment. So their job is to put these controls into practice and then, day in and day out, make sure they're actually working. So what does that actually look like? Well, they're the ones managing the whole process, and then they have to verify it's working like it's supposed to. A really big part of their job is to perform a self-assessment, at least once a year, to basically check their own work. And that last step is key. They have to report what they find up the chain. Okay, so we've got our builders. Now let's move to the next link in the chain. If the process owners are the builders, then you can think of group risk management as the independent inspectors. Their job isn't to do the building, but to pop in and check the quality and consistency of the work that's being done across the entire project. Yeah, their focus is huge. It's enterprise-wide. They need to make sure that the whole risk management system isn't just a bunch of separate efforts, but one solid, functional framework that's protecting the whole company. Now, what's really interesting here is this number, 2. So what's the deal with 2? This is the minimum number of times every year that the actions taken to handle major risks get formally reviewed by this group. These are the specific steps taken to lower a risk, and checking them twice a year is a huge part of their ongoing oversight. And here's what that oversight job actually involves. As you can see, they're not checking every single thing. Instead, they do strategic sample tests of the really critical stuff, like what to do in a crisis. They conduct those big picture reviews of the whole company, and they manage the global insurance program, which, trust me, is a massive responsibility. And that brings us to the final top link in our chain, the board of directors. So if we stick with our analogy, they are the homeowners, right? They're not laying bricks or inspecting the wiring, but they have the ultimate responsibility for the entire project. They're the ones who sign off on the final result. This sums it up perfectly. The board is operating from like a 30,000-foot view. They're not getting bogged down in the day-to-day details, but they are the final authority, they set the policy, and they get the consolidated reports that tell them if their investment is safe and sound. So their duties are all about that high-level governance. They approve the big overall risk management policy. And then, at least once a year, they get these comprehensive reports, the ones that include the company's overall risk profile and the results from all those self-assessments we talked about earlier. So we've seen the 3 key groups, the builders, the inspectors, and the homeowners. Now let's take a look at how their very distinct jobs connect to form one strong, seamless chain of accountability. And this table just lays it out so brilliantly. You can see how each level has a specific monitoring action that flows directly into a specific reporting action. The process owners do their self-assessment and report the results. Group risk tests samples and reports the company's overall risk profile. And the board provides that high-level oversight and gives the final thumbs up on the policy. It's a perfect flow. So the crucial point here, the big takeaway, is this upward flow of information. It starts with these detailed hands-on checks right there at the ground level. Then that data gets tested, it gets consolidated, and it gets analyzed by the risk team. And finally, all of that refined strategic information lands with the board so they can make smart, informed decisions. So why does all of this matter? I mean, is it just a bunch of bureaucratic paperwork? Absolutely not. This structured chain of accountability is a system designed to protect everyone. It protects the company's stability, it safeguards the employees' jobs, and it protects the trust of its customers. Because when a link in this chain breaks, when those self-assessments aren't totally honest, or when oversight gets lazy, that's when you see the major corporate scandals and failures we all read about. In the end, while you have these very defined roles for owners and managers and the board, it's pretty clear that everyone has a responsibility to understand and manage risk. And that kind of leaves us with one final thought, right? In any organization, we are all a link in that chain.